Welcome to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. And now your host, Tim Johnson.
Shell is a global company in transition. We'll visit with Shell's Senior Vice President for the U.S. Gulf Coast, Rhoman Hardy, when we return on this edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Louisiana businesses, by partnering with your local community and technical college foundation, you're guaranteed a skilled, highly competent workforce, homegrown talent, trained specifically to meet your needs, whatever those needs are. Visit this website to learn more about how to partner with your local Louisiana Community and Technical College Foundation. To better prepare for tomorrow, become a partner today.
Protect yourself from the headaches of dealing with a non-licensed contractor. Go to lacontractor.org and make sure the person or company who wants to work for you is licensed by the Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors. It's your money. Make wise decisions and protect yourself.
Growing up in Baton Rouge, I used to always pass up ExxonMobil, but I never thought that I would actually have the opportunity to get on. But what I thought was impossible turned out to be possible. So I just feel like it's just a wonderful opportunity to be able to provide for my family.
We are committed to being a community partner. We are actively working to recruit the talent here in Baton Rouge, and we want to bring them into our workforce. We're ready.
Louisiana has over 26,000 licensed companies that do business legally and meet the needs of our state. Before selecting a contractor, check references and verify the license at lacontractor.org. It's your money. Make wise decisions and protect yourself from being scammed.
For 8 seconds in the arena before an afternoon in the field. For a promise to students that honors success in the classroom. For championships earned on the bayou. For innovators committed to reclaiming our coastline. The Universities of Louisiana. For your future. For our future.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Rhoman Hardy, who is the Senior Vice President for the U.S. Gulf Coast for Shell, is our guest. Brother, you and I have been friends for a long time. First time I've had the pleasure of having you on the show. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Tim. I'm happy to be here and excited for this episode.
I think we've got a lot of good stuff to talk about, so let's jump into it. We generally start, Rhoman, with a little bit about our guest's background. So tell us about Rhoman Hardy and the path that has led you to the position you're in at Shell today.
Yeah, Tim, it's been a long journey with Shell. So I actually started with the company when I was 19 years old. I was a student at LSU and became an intern. And then when I graduated, I went full time. So it's a unique story in a way. It's the only company I've ever worked for. So it's 31 and a half years. Funny enough, I'm going to be retiring in a couple of weeks. So it's been a long, great journey. But I'm from Louisiana originally, and to get a chance to work for an international company and go around the world, it's been a fantastic journey to get to this place.
Well, you and I have similar backgrounds. I think we grew up not far from one another, right? I sort of in the Acadiana region. I grew up in a little place called Pine Prairie. Tell us about your upbringing where you grew up.
Yeah, I'm a Lake Charles native, so right. My parents are still there. My mom and dad, but actually they, like a lot of people, they moved to Lake Charles. So my dad's family from the Abbeville area,
right.
Acadiana, my mom's family from the Opelousas area.
That's right. Rhoman, Shell's got a great presence along the Gulf Coast and specifically in Louisiana. And on this show, we like to talk about and quite frankly celebrate organizations that have an economic impact in our state, that employ individuals, give families a better quality of life. So let's sort of start there. Let's talk about the locations in Louisiana, the number of employees, and the really significant economic impact that Shell has here.
Tim, Shell's been in Louisiana over 100 years, and almost every line of our business is represented in the state, so Louisiana really, really matters to Shell. From our deep water presence in New Orleans, which we're the leading deep water company there, and onshore we have 3 facilities between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, in Geismar and Convent and Norco, refineries and chemical installations.
We're going to talk a lot about sort of some transition that's taking place within the organization globally and how, Shell Louisiana, you're leading here in the state. But one of the things that's always been interesting to me, Rhoman, is the quality of the people within Shell. I know you've seen that over the years. I know Shell puts great stock in the culture of the company, right? I want to talk about community engagement, certainly, but just talk a little bit about, being an employee in Shell, the culture there, the quality of the people that you've been able to attract.
Yeah, Tim, I think the people make the company. We talk a lot about being great community stewards. It starts with hiring the right people to be part of your company. Right. So Shell has about 3,000 employees in the state and over 4,000 retirees. So one of the heaviest population centers for Shell in the world, not just in the U.S. And so when we engage our employees about being a part of the community, it's their community. So we always took positions of support around our assets. And the last several years, we've taken bigger and bigger positions across the state. We want the state of Louisiana to know that the state matters to Shell, and we want to be a great community steward.
I think the results and the engagement have proven that to be the case. So let's talk a little bit about that community engagement. We talk about the culture for the employees, but there is across all Shell sites, whether you're talking about exploration and production, whether you're talking about chemicals, whether you're talking about refining, there's been a great culture of community engagement and community support in a lot of ways. So let's talk about that, Rhoman. You mentioned a couple of words, right? Communication, trust. Those are the things that you work hard to build in the communities where you operate. I know that culture has been very important to you. Talk about it from the company's perspective, and then I'd like to talk about it from your personal perspective as well.
Yeah, I think, sort of the base expectations of people for companies is to pay their property taxes and provide great jobs, and we absolutely want to do that. But it's important for us to ask ourselves, what's important to people in Louisiana? And how can we be a part of that beyond just doing those things? So things like the arts, things like the museums and the hospitals in the area. We've taken positions through many different venues to show the community that we're a bigger part of the community than just doing those minimal things.
Well, you mentioned some of those, right? The engagement with LSU, with Southern University, with the African American Museum, the Baton Rouge Arts Council, a lot of things that are critically important to the community that Shell has invested in and supported, not just with your dollars, but with your hours. A lot of community support involvement in terms of volunteerism as well.
Absolutely. Along with, you'll see the PECT in a lot of different places, and that's really just to remind the community that we want to be here and be a key part of it. But also our employees take position on the boards so they can provide some intellectual capital along with financial capital. And frankly, our employees love it. When we create these opportunities, you have lines of people who want to go do this. So when you see those smiling billboards with Shell faces all over the state, those are employees working in our facilities who are also doing something else in their community, and we try to support that.
Well, I've shared on a number of occasions with our mutual friend, Rochelle Touchard, who does a lot of work for Shell all across Louisiana in public and governmental affairs, that this Rhythm of Louisiana campaign that you mentioned there is really well done. And what strikes me about it is the engagement of your employees. When you see these billboards, when you see the commercials, when you hear the radio ads, it is Shell individuals in their communities being engaged. And I know that whole campaign is something you're very proud of as well. I'm
extremely proud. And it's I think, when the Louisiana native comes out, because you know how much our people care about the community, and we're proud of what we do, and we want to show the world that. And we have lines of our employees asking for the next round of billboards because they want to show their family that where they work. We create great internal pictures of people taking pictures with their family underneath their billboards where their husband or spouse or wife is featured. So it's been a great campaign.
Yeah, we got about 30 seconds left in this segment, but I also want to mention a service that you have provided. You have been on the board of the Louisiana Community and Technical College System for quite some time now. That organization very critical to you because it is preparing individuals in these communities to participate successfully in the economy and be able to obtain jobs at places like Shell.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a great honor for me to serve. I'm happy that the governor decided to appoint me. And as you mentioned, it creates opportunities for kids to get into our industry, but I also think just prepare us for the entire new wave of industry that's coming to Louisiana. So it's an honor to be a part of the Community College System Board.
We'll take a break. We've got lots to talk about when we come back. We're visiting with Rhoman Hardy. He's the Senior Vice President for the U.S. Gulf Coast for Shell. You're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Shell, the rhythm of Louisiana.
As humankind faces its most critical challenges yet, The world demands leaders, and LSU is taking up the charge. The research we do here goes everywhere to protect communities threatened by climate change, so you can live your life with fewer worries about tomorrow. We're formulating a better way for everyone, because at LSU, our calling is humanity.
Plants would not be operating if they weren't operating under the regulations to keep everybody safe and keep the environment safe.
It also goes back to the end products that our raw materials go into.
Solar panels,
windmills,
reusable bottles. Primary product is acrylonitrile, which is used to make carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber in an airplane is used to make it lighter.
By reducing weight, we indirectly help the environment because it uses less fuel. And for us to make products that help reduce carbon footprint, it's a big deal.
Shell, the rhythm of Louisiana.
So, how can I help you today?
Maybe you're looking for a bigger home. Maybe you have plans to grow your business. Or maybe all your plans have just changed. For the better. Whether you're planning for the future or just looking for a bank that cares about you. If you have a goal, let's make it happen.
This is what you're looking for.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Rhoman Hardy of Shell is our guest. Rhoman, we talked a lot about community engagement. There's a couple of additional things we can go into there. But the oil and gas industry globally is going through a transition. And Shell is really the leader in that transition. I want to talk about that transition from a global perspective, and then let's narrow it down to its impact in Louisiana. Talk about what Shell's doing from a global perspective.
Yeah, Tim, I think the industry is going through as big a transformation I've seen as 30 plus years of working in it. It's definitely clear around the world companies are taking climate change seriously and trying to find new and different ways to provide the energy solutions that the world needs. And Shell takes on that challenge. So as you mentioned, traditionally we've been oil and gas and a company primarily. Now you see us adding many more product lines that are lower carbon, that still allows people to move around the world, makes the products they need, but do it in a way that's less impactful to the environment. So you'll see now Shell entering into new lines, low carbon fuels to replace traditional fuels, providing electricity in markets to support the EV transformation and the electrification of industry in general. Hydrogen and carbon capture and storage as ways to supplement the current energy systems. It's exciting, it's scary. I think it's something that a lot of people are really trying to figure out the best way to go do. But what I will say to you is our customers are demanding. Most of our customers made pledges of where they want to be in certain times period by 2030 and 2050, and we're actively revamping our global system to meet those needs.
Not only is Shell focused on providing the energy sources of the future, while you maintain those critically important oil and gas energy sources as you make the transition. A couple of things there, right? These new energies, these new fuels, these critically important elements for the global economy. But, I've had this conversation with Congressman Garrett Graves a number of times, and I know you have too, is that if you think about the globe's most pressing environmental issues, it is industry's leadership in a lot of ways that are going to help to solve those most pressing problems. And that's another place where Shell is out front. You talk about, when you think about plastics recycling and all the things that are going on there, it's something that I know the entire organization is very proud of. And it is critically important, not just to the economy of the future, but to the environment as well. Talk about that a little bit.
I think you touched on it in exactly the right way, Tim. I think industry has to be a part of solving these problems. And I think we can even move away from describing them as problems as opportunities. I mean, if you think through now with the things going on in the world, increased supply of energy from new sources can provide energy independence, less reliance on maybe actors you don't want to rely on. Right. And it's particularly opportunistic for Louisiana. Louisiana has always been a great beneficiary of natural resources. I think we're going to have another round of that, with the mix of agriculture, natural gas, the role of the river will play a huge role. So for Louisiana in particular, I think it can thrive in this energy transition.
Well, let's focus on that. Rhoman, because if you think about the facilities that exist in Louisiana, we'll talk a little bit about the repurposing of the Convent refinery, but you've got the chemical plants, you've got the Norco complex that is integrated, doing both, right? So talk about this transition and what it means specifically for the state of Louisiana.
Happy to, Tim. It's been the last several years of work to really try to figure out that puzzle for us in the U.S. Gulf Coast and in Louisiana in particular. What we now see is our existing assets can be invested in and changed in a way that allows us to support multiple new platforms here. One is low carbon fuels, as I mentioned before, which will feature at Convent. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The second is growing in the chemicals business. So the chemicals demand continues to grow globally at the pace of GDP or a little bit more, but we need to make that from lower carbon products as well. And then lastly, underpinning all that, carbon capture and storage and potentially hydrogen solutions. The great thing is that the position of our assets in Louisiana and a lot of the company's assets will be perfect to make that transformation. Louisiana's geology allows for carbon capture and storage, which allows us to reduce emissions from the historical sources. At the same time, we're connected to the world's best pipeline network. We have access to the rest of the world through our river and through the Gulf Coast that makes this a perfect place to invest.
Well, there's so many reasons why Louisiana has been traditionally an oil and gas state, and now it's going to be interesting to watch it make this transition. And quite frankly, in some ways, applaud Governor Edwards for his leadership in this area, right? And recognizing that Louisiana can be a leader. Let's talk about a couple of other things as we transition into the discussion of the Convent repurposing. You guys have long been leaders in the community advisory panel process. This community engagement, right? Building knowledge, understanding, and trust in those communities where you operate. I've had the great pleasure of working with your company in that process. Talk about that and what it's meant for the communication from Shell into those communities.
Yeah, it's a great point, Tim. I mean, it's great to have all this new investment coming to the state, but we also know that not every part of the community has always celebrated that. So a great thing about the CAP is let's listen to the community, get feedback around what else has to be true for all these things to work in a way that people feel the success of it. I think that's been a great source of information for us. We absolutely understand, along with reducing greenhouse gas emissions, there are other things that people care about. Here in this state, reducing toxicity in particulate matter will be part of our efforts as we go forward, and continue to listen to the community about what else it cares about. The CAP has been a great opportunity for us to hear that. It definitely helps us with our approach toward investing in new projects.
It has been a good communication process. Let's take a break a little bit early, then we'll come back and start in the third segment with the overall repurposing of the Convent refinery. I want to talk specifically about where it's going, but more importantly, the commitment that Shell made to that community as that facility began to transition. We're visiting with Rhoman Hardy of Shell. You're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Rhoman Hardy, Senior Vice President, Gulf Coast for Shell, is our guest. Rhoman, we mentioned in the previous segment the whole idea of the initial thought that the Convent refinery for Shell was closing, and then this idea now that it can be repurposed. You talked a lot about these new energy sources and these new fuels that Shell is heavily invested in. I want to talk about the community impact of that process, that transition of the Convent refinery, because as you made the decision, you also made a decision that you were going to protect the employees that were there, you were going to protect the community around that refinery, and you were also going to protect the tax base for St. James Parish, where that refinery is located. Talk about all three of those.
Yeah, Tim, the decision to shut down the Convent refinery is one of the toughest I've had in my career. And so we definitely took some time to think about how do we go about this. The financials around the facility was clear, and if you recall, during COVID period, the demand had really dropped off, so it's pretty acute. But we're the number one taxpayer in multiple parishes in the state, including in St. James Parish. So thankfully, we were able to sit with the assessor and the leaders in the local parish and talk about what was important to them, what they need for the school system, et cetera, and come to agreement to negotiate a 3-year set of tax payments that really support what the community's needs are. So we're proud to be able to do that. We want to be a key part of the community, including when times are tough. Same approach for our employees. We decided to offer voluntary services to all our employees in the state onshore to really create more opportunities for the employees at Convent who want to continue to work to land and stay in Shell. I'm happy to say of the employees who want to continue to work, we landed 70% of those people in jobs in our Shell facilities, either here in Louisiana or in Texas. Much more than what I could have ever hoped, so we're really, really happy to go do that. We still recognize that some employees didn't land jobs with Shell, and we've been able to assist them in outplacement outside of the company. But most of the people, the vast majority, was able to stay in Shell.
You know, that's two very interesting points there, Rhoman, because if you follow traditional media, what you heard about at the time that the announcement was made that the Convent refinery was going to close, it were 700 people are going to lose their jobs, and the tax base in St. James Parish will be devastated. You guys went above and beyond to protect both of those. I think if you also look at some of the activist information that you see is that these industries, they don't want to pay their taxes and they're always looking for tax breaks, right? You guys went in with the assessor and the school system and the sheriff and you negotiated ongoing tax payments to help ease that transition in St. James Parish when you weren't legally obligated to do that. So above and beyond to protect the employee base, you didn't necessarily hear that. Above and beyond to protect the tax base, you didn't necessarily hear that. So congratulations to you. I know the feedback has been good.
Well, it's been fantastic. And one thing I want to mention is our employees at Convent are fantastic. They're not the reason we had to shut the facility down. It's more changes in the macro environment.
Right.
Our relationship with the St. James Parish has been strong and continues to be strong, and we wanted to show up in that way. And so I'm really thankful for St. James, Ascension, St. Charles, all the places we operate. We have great relationships with our parishes.
Well, and I know for a fact, because we work with a lot of those industries, is that the quality of the Shell employees at Convent was something that had a lot of other facilities salivating over about the opportunity maybe to get some of them to come over. Let's talk about something else that is meaningful in the workplace and that you have absolutely been a leader on, Rhoman, and that's diversity, equity, and inclusion. 3 critically important words in today's environment, in today's society. Creating this economy that gives everyone an opportunity, creating a workplace where folks feel comfortable and safe working. Once again, Shell's a leader, Rhoman Hardy's a leader. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think you said it well. I mean, the basic principle for us is we want our workforce to look like the communities that we operate in and look like the customers we sell to. It's not, to me, not a very controversial item, but sometimes you'll see disparities in that. But we've been able to highlight what that is, ask ourselves why, in some cases make adjustments. But the number one sort of goal is that our employee base can really represent the communities in which we operate and really give us views of what our customers want. That allows us to give better solutions to our customers. It allows us to be a better member of the community. I've been happy to be a part of helping Shell figure out and lead that through that. And I think a lot of it just creates this moment of when you see people smiling because they're able to take care of their families, and then the community feels the broader impact of what we do beyond just our products. The reward is more than I can ever give.
Well, we think about where you operate in a lot of these communities, and we think about the poverty that grips Louisiana. And oftentimes, it is simply the ability to give individuals hope that they can be something. And if you look at that beautiful Rhythm of Louisiana campaign and those billboards and the diversity that exists there, I think it's something that the entire organization can be very proud of, and I know you are. I'll talk about a couple of things in the minute and a half we have left in the show, and that is, as you prepare to exit now after 31 years in this organization, as a real leader and someone that has been admired by the industrial community, in fact, the entire business community in Louisiana for a long, long time, what have you learned about leadership, Rhoman, over the course of those 30 years?
Yes, so much. I guess the number one thing I would say about leaders is you need to create clarity of where you're trying to go. Not that you're perfect in knowing, but people want to understand what does success look like, and then coach and help people to get there. What I would say is you'll be amazed at the power of people. When they have an idea of where you want to go and why, and that you have high support for helping them get there, high accountability for the results, that you'll be amazed about what people can deliver. And also say, having a chance to have worked around the world, the people in Louisiana are fantastic. Do not underestimate the capability that we have here. It actually outpaces most places in the world. I think what you need is leadership to describe what's next, so that we don't fall into status quo, that we're always seeking to improve. But our people in this state, and people in general, but particularly in this state, can deliver unbelievable things. So one of the beautiful things about having these constructs of work, whether it be in a facility or in an office, I think it can show the best of us as a people. It could be the things that propel the entire state, just because people learn different ways to work together. And leaders redefining what they believe their goals are and their roles will be, create the space for people to think through that and become better people.
Well, I will tell you that I know for a fact, and I can say without fear of contradiction, that Shell will miss your leadership. I know the state of Louisiana will miss your leadership. I have a sneaking suspicion that you'll be around and you'll be doing some things probably that will continue along in those roles. Best of luck to you, my friend, as you start this new part of your career, and congratulations for the great work that you and Shell as an organization have done in Louisiana for a long, long time.
Thank you, Tim.
That's a wrap, guys. Thanks for joining us. Join us again next week at this very same time for another edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.